Many of you who have an older home may have this particular problem when you go to turn on the light in your bathroom and you find that the fan no longer works. So we're going to find out why the fan's not working and see if we can replace it and fix it without taking out the entire unit. Now, I'm a firm believer in lockout tagout because the last thing I want to do is give myself a shock while I'm up on the ladder. I really don't want to turn off the circuit breaker downstairs because that'll turn off other things in the house. So I'm just going to put some tape over this light switch. It'll keep anyone from being able to flip that on accidentally. Now, to start this project, of course we have to use a ladder. My ceiling is a 10-foot ceiling instead of an 8-foot ceiling, so I definitely need to use a ladder. I put the bath mat down in the tub so I don't scratch the porcelain with my ladder. So you want to protect everything as much as possible. Now, when it comes to fixing and repairing things, I learned a long time ago you have to approach everything logically. And there's no such thing as magic pixie dust that'll make it work or not work. If something's not working, it's for a particular reason. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take out this lens with my famous tool called a butter knife. And this has been up there for a while. The reason I can tell is this has an old compact fluorescent light bulb in here. And I haven't used these for a long, long time, so this is probably the original light bulb when I built the house back in 2006. So we'll replace this with an LED. This fan is pretty straightforward. I removed the lens, removed the light bulb, and what's holding in the reflector and the light bulb assembly is this wing nut. So we're going to take this wing nut out, and I can see that the wing nut with this reflector assembly is on the outside of the grill here. And so by taking this out, I have a feeling that the entire grill and light assembly is going to come right out, probably all at once here. So there's the light assembly, and the grill is just kind of held on by a little bit of paint there. So we have this whole assembly out. That goes the grill, and you take a look at the socket and the reflector assembly. It's just plugged in up here. So we're just going to remove the plug, and this piece comes out all at once. Now, this fan housing is pretty straightforward. We've got tab and slot on this side, so you got two tabs that are going into the casing on this side. And on this side we have a set screw, quarter-inch set screw holding everything in. So we're going to go ahead and unplug that and get my quarter-inch nut driver, and we're going to take this out. Okay, so we have that out. We're just going to grab onto this and pull it out and away. And there we go. Comes out real simple. So we're going to go ahead and test this and find out if there's an open circuit or if it's just rusty. I mean, you can see how much dust and lint is on this unit. Let's see, this 2006, so it's a little bit on the old side. Now, I'm doing this on my kitchen counter, and I don't want to, mar the kitchen counter, so I put down some newspaper just to protect the counter from getting scratched, and I don't want to be on the blacklist from my wife. I can eliminate the light switch going to this unit because when I wired it up, the fan and the light was on the same circuit. But I can tell just by trying to turn this fan does not turn really well. It's pretty much bound up. So I do have an extension cord here. So we're just going to plug this in real quick and kind of hold it with my fingers just in case the thing wants to torque on me. But you can see it's not working. Now if I spin this, well, it's not working either, so it's bound up pretty good. One of the problems with bathroom fans, because of the moisture from the shower, from the bath, can get up into the bushings in the motor and just kind of make a mess out of them. So we're going to have to tear this puppy apart. There's two washers right here holding the motor assembly on. There's 5/16. That would be a yellow nut driver. A red nut driver is 1/4 inch. So we're going to take these two off right here. And we're just going to get a little bit of a bowl to put our hardware in. So this is a holding bracket for the fan. And this is just messy. I'll clean this up after we make the repair. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and get some compressed air and clean this up before we get any further into it. Okay, I'm not going to use compressed air to clean this up because I want to use the same tools that most people will have out there. Not everyone has a compressor. I know a lot of people do. So I'm just going to clean this up with a rag and an old toothbrush. It might take me a little bit longer, but I think everyone has a rag and a toothbrush. Cleaned up nicely. Now, there's a rear bearing cap and there's going to be a front bearing cap. The two screws that hold those two on and also that pass through the motor frame are held on with the Torx head. And this is a T20. If you don't have a Torx head, Allen wrenches will also work. So we're going to go ahead and take these screws out and put them aside. Okay, the screws are out. They're over in my bowl. So what we're going to do is just going to wiggle the back bearing cap off here, just like that. And then we'll wiggle this and take the front bearing cap out. So basically this is an AC motor. So this is the stator right here that has a magnetic field. And the armature in this case is aluminum. And aluminum has a really interesting effect when it comes to an AC electric field. So there's no brushes in this particular style of motor. There's just a magnetic field that turns an aluminum armature. Now, generally speaking, what goes wrong with these is the little bushings up inside will just kind of get seized up with dust and other garbage. So we're going to clean these little bushings on each side of here. We're going to go ahead and slide this one out. And we're going to take a look at the condition of the army. I can feel right here, and it kind of feels like this old grease is bound up here on the shaft, and that's probably what's keeping this from turning. These motors have very, very low horsepower ratings. It's just a fraction of a horsepower that turns these, so it doesn't take much grease and crud to get down on this shaft to bind them up. Now I want to clean up these fins here. I don't want to try to remove the axle from the fan because it looks like it's a really tight fit press fitting, and I don't want to break it. So in order to clean these up, I can use a toothbrush, but I'm probably going to run just this lower section under some hot water. I don't want to get any water up here where that bearing is, just to kind of clean things up a little bit. Okay, I went ahead and I cleaned up the shaft here just using a rag and a toothbrush. You might be tempted to try to use some emery cloth or some sandpaper on this, but I wouldn't do that because you don't want to reduce the diameter of the shaft any at all, because then you'll just have a little bit of a slop with between the shaft and the bushing. And with that, just cleaning it up with my rag, this is spinning a lot better now. Now what I'm going to do, got some white lithium grease. This is in a spray can, which I like a lot better than in a tube because the tube is going to be a little bit thicker than what the spray will be. So I'm just going to put just a little bit of white lithium grease on my finger, and I'm just going to just dab it right on the shaft itself and slide that bearing cap back in place and get it nice and lubricated. Now it's spinning a lot better there, just with a little bit of white lithium. I wouldn't put any heavy grease on there because the heavy grease will have a tendency to harden up when it gets cold. I wouldn't use any WD-40 because WD-40 is more of a penetrating fluid than it is a lubricant. It does have some lubricating properties, and it also displaces moisture. But in the shower environment where you have moisture coming through this fan, if WD-40 can displace moisture, and moisture can also displace WD-40, so that's why I wouldn't use that in this particular application. So we got the front bearing taken care of. This is the rear bearing. I'm going to grab a Q-tip and just slide it into the back end of this and clean up the cavity inside that bushing. So I got my Q-tip here. We're just going to roll it in there. Clean any gunge out here. You'd be surprised how much baby powder is on this thing. Now these bushings will rotate, which is a nice thing. They're almost like self-aligning. Okay, then on the back end of our shaft, you just grab a little bit of lithium grease there. Just going to put just a little bit on. Don't want to go nuts. And you may be tempted to use an anti-seize compound, but I probably wouldn't, because the anti-seize would probably gather the dust and lint and would probably harden up on you. Okay, so that turns nice and free there. So that's all taken care of. To clean the stator up just a little bit. Okay, now, well, I probably should, I know which is the top and which is the bottom, but it wouldn't be a bad thing to maybe put a T on the top. So this is the top, this is the bottom, so it sits just like this in the fan with the wire hanging out. So you're going to put the bearing cap on there, slide the armature through into the rear bearing cap, and then that snaps into place there. And we're going to go ahead and put these screws back in place here. And you don't have to overly tighten these screws, they should just be nice and snug. So that spins a whole lot better than it used to. So we're going to do a little bit of a test here. I have a outlet right here, so we can plug this in, and look at that, nothing is happening at all. So we have other problems than a seized up shaft. So we need to go to the next step, and we're going to have to ohm out the motor. So we're going to take our multimeter, we're going to put it over on 20k ohms. Okay, so I have continuity there. Now we should have continuity between the plug here, but with a certain amount of resistance. Okay, so I should have some resistance here, and just for the fun of it, I'll crank this up to a higher setting. Still nothing. So this tells me that the problem with our fan is it's not a short, it's an open. See, if you look at my meter, so that now it's closed. If I go on the plug, we have an open there. And I can also check the frame to see if there's any shorts from the winding to the frame itself. Okay, there's no shorts, so my problem I have with this motor, it's an open. So the fine wires in here somewhere have broken from vibration or corrosion or whatever, so this is pretty much toast. So I have a choice of either replacing my entire fan assembly, which is probably going to cost, maybe around $50 to $80, or see if I can find a replacement motor. Sometimes buying the individual parts are going to be more expensive than the whole housing itself. So there are some numbers here, a frame number. So I'm going to go to the internet and see if this is replaceable or not. Okay, I originally got my bathroom fan from Home Depot, and this is exactly what it is, but they want $101. So there's this option, but they're going to give me everything, not just the motor, but everything, including, which means I would have to get this out and put in the new parts into my existing one, or just tear everything out. and this just seems more of a hassle and a waste. Look on the back of the fan, it says Brune Newtone LLC, but then it has a number, this C86677. So I went ahead and put that number into the search section actually on Home Depot's website, and look at this. Down here they have the replacement fan for $24.73. So instead of spending $101 and a lot of labor, I can just go ahead and replace the old fan with a new fan. It looks like they're going to give me a new fan motor along with it, and it's probably going to take about 2 days. So I'm going to go ahead and order this. I'm probably going to check Amazon also just for the fun of it and see if I can get a better price. Now Amazon has a replacement bathroom vent motor for only $17.79, and I'm a Prime member, so I wouldn't have to pay freight. But how do you know if this is the same as this thing? Well, we have all these numbers on the back end of there that we can look at. Now this is our old fan housing, and if we look really close, okay, inside the fan housing they have this model, you can see it right here, model 763 RLN. So we're going to remember that number. So I typed that 763 RLN into it, and up comes this piece. This is the entire plate that we're just looking at, and the fan assembly. I also found this option for $17.79. Now the question comes back is, how do I know if this is the same fan motor as what I have? Well, if you go to Control F on the keyboard, you can go ahead and put this in the section here and search, and sure enough down here the 763 RLN comes up as one of the possible case numbers for this fan, so I know that this is an exact replacement. So I can get one now for $17.79. I really don't need that plate. That plate's just fine, and so I'm going to go ahead and order this $17.79, and we'll be good. 24 hours later, and I get a package on my doorstep from Prime. My only concern is I think during shipping the motor fell out of the box. So I'm hoping this did not get beaten up too much through shipping. Okay, so it looks about the same. I believe we have a winner here. So that's my replacement. And just to make sure everything is fine, I'm going to hold it by the frame and plug it in, and that is spinning just fine. So we're good to go. And they should have given me a replacement fan. There we go. So this looks like it's just going to be a press fit. Yeah, that's going to be a nice tight press fit. So plug that in, and nice quiet operation. So we're going to put this back into the mount and install it back in the bathroom. So these two screws back on the motor will just fit right through there. We get our nuts, put them back in. One thing that's always helpful when doing a repair like this, before you take things apart, if you're not quite sure, take a picture with your cell phone. That way you can go back and take a look to see how everything was arranged, especially when it comes to wiring. Okay, so this is all put back together again, and we can go ahead and install this back into the ceiling. Okay, so we have our fan assembly. We're going to put it right back up inside. We're going to put the tabs back where the tabs go. And this just gets pushed back inside. And we have a little set screw that will go right there. And we have our little set screw that goes right up inside this hole. And we're going to tighten that up. Okay, so our fan's in, and what we're going to do, we're going to reach up through here. Now, just a word of caution, there's a lot of sheet metal edges around here, which can be kind of sharp. Just be careful not to cut yourself. Reach your fan finger up in here, give the fan just a twirl with your finger. Make sure it can spin smooth. You're not hearing anything wear against anything. And if that's the case, go ahead, take and plug this in. And just listen to that nice hum of a fan. So all we need to do now is just put back the reflector in the grill and change the light bulb. Now while you have everything disassembled, it'd be worth your while to go ahead and clean everything up and get rid of all the lint and all the garbage and stuff so that you'll have a nice clean light fixture when you're all done. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to put the light fixture back in, and that's just going to sit here and dangle there for a while. And then we have the grill. The grill's up and around. Okay, now all that's back in place. We're just going to put the screw. That's all back into place. Now we're just going to tighten that wing nut. Back there, everything is just fine. Now we need to replace the light bulb. Now if you take a look at those lights over there in my bathroom, they're more of a kind of a soft, creamy color. That's definitely daylight. So we want the other one. That Kelvin temperature is a little bit too bright. Okay, so we'll go with that one there. And the last thing you need to do is put the lens back into place, and that snaps right into place like so. So it took us about 30 minutes to do this repair, and it was successful. So now I have a light and a fan back in my bathroom for under $25 when the original price was $101. So all is well. If you want to see other videos like this, please subscribe, and thank you for your time.